The cake was pink, not soft pink, not elegant pink. The loud, attention-grabbing grocery store kind of pink that practically shouted across the football field. And right in the center, written in thick white frosting, were the words, "Congratulations from your real mom." People noticed before I did. You could feel it ripple through the bleachers, whispers moving faster than sound. Someone behind me said quietly, "Wait, real mom." Another voice answered, "I thought Marianne was his mom." I didn't move. I was still holding my folding chair, halfway unfolded, frozen in that awkward standing position people get stuck in when something humiliating happens too suddenly for the brain to catch up. Across the grass, my sister Lily stood smiling like she'd just delivered the performance of her life. She wore a white dress, hair curled, makeup perfect, holding that cake like a trophy. And next to her stood my parents, proud, expectant, watching the crowd instead of watching me. That was the moment I understood. This wasn't impulsive. This wasn't emotional. This was planned. A public correction, a rewrite of history. I felt my son's hand tighten around mine. Evan hadn't said anything yet. He was still in his graduation gown, cap tilted slightly sideways, diploma folder tucked under his arm. He read the cake. Then he read the crowd. Then slowly he looked at me. I kept my face calm. Because 19 years teaches you something important. You don't react first. You observe. You wait. And the silence stretching across that football field felt heavier than any shouting ever could. My sister took a step forward and said loudly enough for nearby families to hear, "Hi, sweetheart. Mommy came." A few people gasped. Someone's phone lifted, recording already. I felt heat crawl up my neck, but my voice stayed steady. Inside my head, one thought repeated, "She really chose today." Evan didn't answer her. He just stared. And what he did next was the first crack in a story my family thought they controlled. Here's the strange part. Nobody at that graduation knew the truth. Not his teachers, not our neighbors, not even most of our extended family. For 19 years, everyone believed the same version of events because I let them. Because keeping peace mattered more than being right. Because protecting a child sometimes means swallowing things you never deserved. But standing there, watching Lily smile like she was reclaiming stolen property, questions started stacking in my head all at once. Why now? Why publicly? Why wait until the one day that belonged entirely to Evan? And the biggest question of all, why did my parents look relieved instead of shocked? That's when something settled in my chest. This wasn't just Lily's stunt. I wasn't walking into a surprise. I was walking into a family decision I hadn't been informed about. And suddenly the past 19 years felt rearranged. Before I tell you how we got there, I want to pause for a second. Because moments like this, the ones that look small from the outside but split your life into before and after, they happen to more people than we admit. So tell me in the comments where you're watching from tonight. I always read them later, and it honestly makes these conversations feel less lonely. And if stories about family truth, complicated loyalty, and quiet strength resonate with you, you might want to subscribe. Not because this story is dramatic, but because it's painfully ordinary. And that's what makes it hard to escape. Okay, let me go back. My name is Marianne. I'm 41 now. And for 19 years, I've been Evan's mother. Legally, emotionally, practically, in every way that mattered. But biologically, I'm his aunt. That distinction used to feel simple, until it didn't. 19 years earlier, I was 22, fresh out of college, working my first real job at a dental office, renting a tiny apartment with carpet that permanently smelled like laundry detergent and regret. I wasn't planning motherhood. I was planning independence. My sister Lily was 16, beautiful, popular, untouchable in the way teenagers sometimes are when adults confuse charm with maturity. The pregnancy announcement happened at dinner. I remember the sound first, my mother's fork hitting the plate. "Say that again," she whispered. Lily shrugged, chewing slowly. "I'm pregnant." My father stood up immediately, not shocked, not concerned, angry. "This cannot happen." Not "are you okay?" Not "what do you need?" Just reputation, image, family name. I sat there silent, watching Lily stare at the table like she'd expected applause instead of panic. Then my mother turned to me, and that was the moment my life shifted. "Marianne," she said carefully, You're stable. I blinked. What does that mean? You have a job, you're responsible. My stomach dropped. No, I said immediately. No, don't look at me. But they already were. Lily crossed her arms. I'm not ruining my life, she muttered. My father nodded. This situation needs management. Management, like the baby was a scandal instead of a person. The conversation stretched for hours, arguments, tears, silence. Then my mother said the sentence that followed me for decades. If you take the baby, everyone survives. I laughed at first. I thought she was joking, but nobody else laughed. Dialogue scene, Mom, you're asking me to raise a child, I said. Temporarily, she replied quickly. Lily added, just until I figure things out. I looked at her. You mean until it's convenient again? She rolled her eyes. Why are you making this about you? I remember feeling something fracture inside me. This is about me, I said quietly. You're asking me to become a parent overnight. Dad leaned forward. You'd be helping your sister. I'd be sacrificing my life. No, he said firmly. You'd be protecting this family. I stared at all three of them, and I realized something uncomfortable. The decision had already been made. They just needed me to agree so they could feel ethical about it. I didn't sleep that night. I walked my apartment for hours, thought about daycare costs, thought about dating, thought about freedom disappearing, and then I imagined a baby being raised by resentment, or worse, being treated like a mistake. So I said yes. Not because I wanted motherhood, because I couldn't stand the alternative. Evan was born 6 months later. I was in the delivery room, not Lily's friends, not the father, me. She barely held him. I remember a nurse asking gently, Mom, do you want skin to skin? Lily shook her head. I'm tired. Then she handed him to me, and that was it. No ceremony, no official declaration, just a quiet transfer of responsibility. He opened his eyes, wrapped his tiny fingers around mine. And I thought, okay, it's us now. Life became schedules, diapers, overtime shifts, daycare pickups, pediatric appointments. My parents helped financially at first, but emotionally. They treated it like a solved problem. Lily finished high school, went to college, studied marketing, posted beach photos, built a life uninterrupted. People called her brave. They called me such a good sister. Nobody called me a mother yet, but Evan did. His first word wasn't mama, it was Mar, and somehow that meant more. Years passed quietly. Birthday parties, science fairs, nightmares at 2 a.m., homework battles, first soccer game. Every scraped knee came to me. Every secret confession came to me. When he was 8, he asked, why do I have 2 grandmas but only 1 mom? I froze. My mother answered quickly from the kitchen, families are just different. Later that night, Evan crawled into my bed. Did you pick me? He asked sleepily. I kissed his forehead. Yes, I said, and that was the truest answer I could give. Lily visited occasionally, holidays mostly. She brought expensive gifts, stayed an hour, took pictures, left. She called herself Aunt Lily. And I believed we had an understanding, unspoken, stable, permanent, until last year. The change started small, so small I almost ignored it. Lily began visiting more often. At first, it felt nice. She showed up with groceries, asked about Evan's grades, sat at dinner longer. One evening she watched him doing homework and said casually, he has my handwriting. I laughed politely. Maybe, she smiled strangely. He definitely gets his intelligence from me. Something about the tone lingered, not joking. Claiming, later that night while washing dishes, she stood beside me. You ever think about telling him? I kept scrubbing the plate. Telling him what? She lowered her voice. That I'm his real mother. The word real landed heavily. We agreed, I said calmly. When he was ready, she shrugged. He's almost an adult. He's still a kid. She leaned closer. I think he deserves the truth. My stomach tightened, not because she was wrong, but because suddenly it felt like a negotiation had reopened. Why now? I asked. She sighed dramatically. Because I've grown up. You grew up years ago, not emotionally. I turned toward her. Lily, what are you asking? She hesitated, then said softly, I think I want a relationship with my son. My chest went cold. You have one, as his aunt. Her smile faded. That's not enough anymore. I didn't answer, because I didn't know how to respond without sounding defensive, and I hated that feeling. For the first time in 19 years, I felt replaceable. Over the next months, little things stacked. She texted Evan directly, invited him to coffee without telling me first, posted photos captioned, "Family time, my parents encouraged it." Mom said, "It's natural for a mother to reconnect." I stared at her. "I'm his mother." She avoided eye contact. "Well, biologically." That was the first time she'd ever drawn the line out loud, and it hurt more than I expected. Thanksgiving became the first real warning. We were all at my parents' house, turkey steaming, football playing softly in the background. Everything looked normal until Lily raised her glass. "I just want to say," she announced, smiling at Evan, "how proud I am watching the man you're becoming." Evan nodded politely. "Thanks, Aunt Lily." Her smile tightened slightly. Then she added, "You know, some connections never disappear, no matter how much time passes." The table went quiet. Dad cleared his throat. Mom stared at her plate. I felt tension rising like static electricity. Evan looked confused, and I realized everyone else knew something I didn't. After dinner, I pulled Mom aside. "What's going on?" she sighed. "You're overthinking." "No, I'm noticing. She just wants closeness. With my son," Mom's expression hardened slightly. "You stepped in temporarily, Marianne." The word hit harder than shouting. "Temporarily," I repeated. "Nobody expected this arrangement to last forever." My heartbeat slowed, that dangerous calm before anger. 19 years isn't temporary." She looked uncomfortable. "Well, families evolve." I walked away before I said something irreversible. But inside, a realization formed. The agreement I believed permanent had expiration dates I was never told about. Christmas brought another shift. Lily gave Evan a framed photo. Baby Evan in a hospital blanket with her holding him. I had never seen that picture before. He turned it over. Handwritten on the back, "Love always, Mom." Evan frowned. "Aunt Lily, why does it say Mom?" The room froze. She laughed lightly. "Oh, just sentimental." But she watched me while she said it, testing, pushing, waiting. That night, Evan asked quietly, "Is there something you haven't told me?" And for the first time, I didn't know how long I could hold the truth back. 2 weeks later, my father called me into his office. He rarely did that. It meant seriousness. He closed the door, sat across from me, hands folded. "We need to talk about the future," he said. Something about his tone made my skin prickle. "The future of what?" I asked. He hesitated, then said, "Lily wants to step into her role fully." I blinked. "I don't understand." He inhaled slowly. "She's ready to be recognized as Evan's mother." The room felt suddenly smaller. "And where exactly does that leave me?" He didn't answer immediately, which was answer enough. And that's when I realized the graduation cake had started long before graduation day. I left my father's office that afternoon with a strange calm settling over me. Not panic, not anger, something colder. Because for the first time I understood, they weren't asking. They were transitioning. Quietly, gradually, preparing Evan and everyone else to accept a rewritten version of our family. And I didn't yet know how far they were willing to go. But 3 weeks later, I discovered something on Lily's social media that changed everything. Something that proved this wasn't about bonding. It was about replacement. And once I saw it, I stopped reacting. I started preparing. The post went up at 2:17 a.m. I know the exact time because I couldn't sleep that night. Evan had college acceptance letters spread across our kitchen table, and I'd been sitting there rereading them long after he went to bed, touching each envelope like proof that all those years meant something tangible. That's when my phone buzzed. A notification. "Lily tagged you in a memory." I almost ignored it, but something in my chest tightened before I even opened the app. And the moment the photo loaded, I understood why. It was a picture from the hospital, not the one she gave Evan at Christmas. This one showed newborn Evan in an incubator, tiny, fragile, and Lily standing beside him. The caption read, "Some stories take time to come back to where they belong. Soon I can finally live as a mother again." Read. Hundreds of likes, comments pouring in. "You deserve this. So brave of you. Reuniting families is beautiful. He's lucky to have his mom back." I stared at the screen, waiting for the punchline. There wasn't one. She wasn't hinting. She was announcing. And the most unsettling part, My parents had already commented. Mom wrote, "Proud of you always." Dad added a heart emoji he barely knew how to use. I sat perfectly still in the quiet kitchen. The refrigerator hummed. A car passed outside. Somewhere down the hall, Evan turned in his sleep. And I realized something slowly, carefully, like stepping onto thin ice. They weren't preparing Evan privately. They were preparing the audience first. I scrolled further. More posts appeared. Photos I had never seen. Hospital pictures. Early baby photos. Captions using words like "my son, our bond," coming full circle. Each post carefully worded. Never accusing me. Never mentioning me. Just quietly erasing me. My first instinct wasn't anger. It was confusion. Why would she do this publicly before even talking to him? Then another thought followed. Unless she already believed the outcome was guaranteed. The next morning at breakfast, Evan poured cereal while I watched him carefully. He looked normal, relaxed, oblivious. "You sleep okay?" I asked. "Yeah," he said. "Why?" "No reason." I hesitated, then asked gently, "Have you talked to Aunt Lily lately?" He shrugged. "She texts sometimes." "What about?" "College stuff, life advice." He smiled slightly. "She's been different lately." "Different," I nodded slowly. "Different how?" He thought for a moment. "Like she's trying really hard to impress me." I felt a strange mix of relief and dread. "What do you think about that?" He spooned cereal into his mouth. "I don't know, it's nice, I guess. But it feels sudden." He glanced at me. "You okay?" I smiled automatically. "Yeah, just tired." Inside, my thoughts raced. He doesn't know, which meant the real reveal hadn't happened yet, meaning Lily was staging something bigger. I went to work that day functioning on autopilot. Patients talked. Phones rang. I nodded at conversations without hearing them, because memories kept replaying every fever I sat through, every soccer practice in the rain, every parent-teacher conference where teachers said, "You raised a wonderful young man," not helped raise, raised. And now suddenly language was changing around me. Real mom, biological mom, reunion. It felt like watching someone slowly replace your name on a door while insisting nothing was being taken away. I called Lily that evening. She answered immediately, too quickly, like she'd been waiting. "Hey, Mari," she said brightly. I skipped pleasantries. "I saw your post." A pause. "Oh, yeah. What does live as a mother again mean?" She exhaled dramatically. "I was wondering when you'd call." "Answer the question." Her tone softened. "I'm just being honest about my feelings. With strangers online, they're my friends. They think you raised him." Silence stretched. Then she said calmly, "Well, I am his mother." The sentence landed differently this time, not defensive. Declarative. "Lily," I said carefully, "we agreed years ago how this would work. That agreement was made when I was 16, and I was 22 giving up my life plans. You chose to." I closed my eyes briefly. "Yes, I did. For him, and I'm grateful," she said quickly. "You helped when I couldn't." Helped, the word felt surgical. "So what happens now?" I asked. "I want honesty. With him, with everyone." I inhaled slowly. "Are you planning to tell Evan you're his mother?" Another pause. Then, "Yes." My chest tightened. "When?" She hesitated just long enough to confirm my fear. "Soon. Define soon." She didn't answer. Instead, she said, "You don't have to be scared, Marianne. You'll always be important to him." Important. Like a teacher. Like a babysitter. Like a phase. Something inside me shifted quietly. Not explosive anger. Something colder. Observation replacing emotion. Because I finally understood. She wasn't asking for space. She was assuming transfer of ownership. 2 days later, my mother invited me to lunch. Neutral location. A cafe halfway between our houses. That alone told me this wasn't casual. She stirred her coffee repeatedly before speaking. "You've seemed tense lately." I almost laughed. "Really?" She avoided eye contact. "Lily told us you're struggling with the transition." Transition. There it was again, language changing reality. "What transition?" I asked. Mom sighed. "She's ready to step into motherhood." "And I'm supposed to step out?" "That's not fair." "Then explain it." She leaned forward. "You were never meant to do this forever." I stared at her. 19 years. She winced slightly. "You gave him stability. I gave him a life, and now he deserves the truth." The sentence sounded rehearsed. which made my stomach drop. "Who decided that?" She hesitated, then quietly said, "We all talked about it." We all, meaning family meetings had happened, plans discussed, timelines set, without me. "So you're coordinating this?" I asked. "We're supporting Lily. At my expense. No one is replacing you." "Then why does this feel like eviction?" Mom's voice hardened slightly. "You're being emotional." I leaned back, suddenly calm. "I raised your grandson while she built her life, and we're grateful. But now I'm inconvenient." "That's not true." "Then why wasn't I included?" She didn't answer, and silence confirmed everything words avoided. Driving home, I felt something unfamiliar. Not heartbreak, clarity, because patterns started connecting, the increased visits, the social media posts, the subtle language shifts, the private family conversations. They were building a narrative where Lily's return looked natural, and my role looked temporary. The graduation suddenly made sense. Public milestone, large audience, emotional atmosphere, perfect moment for a symbolic reclaiming. The cake wasn't impulsive. It was the final step of a months-long strategy, and the realization hurt less than expected. Because once something becomes clear, fear disappears. That night, while folding laundry, Evan walked into the kitchen holding his phone. "Hey," he said casually, "can I ask you something weird?" My heart thudded once. "Of course." He sat across from me. "I saw Aunt Lily's posts." I stayed very still. "And," he hesitated, "she talks like she missed raising me." I nodded slowly. "How does that make you feel?" He frowned. "Confused." I waited. He added quietly, "It feels like everyone's talking around something." The room felt heavy. I realized the moment I'd postponed for 19 years was arriving, whether I wanted it or not. But before I could speak, he said something unexpected. "I asked Grandpa about it." My stomach dropped. "What did he say?" Evan looked uncomfortable. "He said families are complicated and big truths come out when people become adults." Cold realizations spread through me. They were already preparing him, without me. "Did that answer your question?" I asked. "No," Evan said. "It made me feel like I'm missing part of my own story." He looked directly at me. "You'd tell me if something important existed, right?" I felt two instincts collide. Protect him, tell him everything. I chose honesty, but carefully. "There is something we need to talk about," I said. His shoulders straightened. "Okay, but I want to do it calmly, privately, not because someone else pushes it." He nodded slowly. "That sounds serious." "It is." He hesitated. "Am I going to be mad?" I swallowed. "I don't know." He studied my face for a long moment, then said quietly, "I trust you." And those 3 words almost broke me, because I suddenly understood what Lily and my parents had miscalculated. They assumed biology creates loyalty, but loyalty grows from presence. That night after Evan went to bed, I didn't cry. I didn't panic. I opened my laptop. And for the first time since agreeing to raise him, I reviewed every document. Adoption papers, guardianship agreements, medical authorizations, school registrations listing me as mother, legal custody records signed when Lily was 17, something I had never needed to question before, until now. And buried inside the paperwork, I found the detail none of them seemed to remember, or maybe hoped I didn't. The custody arrangement wasn't temporary. It was legally binding, irrevocable without my consent. I sat back slowly. The room felt quieter, safer, because suddenly the power balance looked very different. They were staging emotional reclamation. But legally, there was nothing to reclaim. 3 days later, Evan asked me to tell him the truth, all of it. And I agreed. What I didn't know yet was that Lily had already planned her own version of that moment. A public one, at graduation, with a cake, with witnesses, with cameras ready. She thought she was revealing a hidden truth. She didn't realize Evan had already learned something first. Something that would make her carefully planned entrance collapse in front of everyone. The humiliation didn't start at graduation. It started in my own living room, 2 weeks before the ceremony. And the worst part, I invited it in myself, because I believed we were finally going to talk like adults. I texted Lily, "We need to sit down together. Me, you, and Evan." She replied instantly. "Perfect. I was hoping you'd say that. That should have warned me." Saturday afternoon. The family meets my house. Evan sat on the couch, nervous but composed, twisting his graduation tassel between his fingers. I sat beside him, across from us Lily, and 5 minutes later my parents walked in uninvited. I blinked. I thought this was just us. Mom smiled too brightly. We're family, we should all be here. That was mistake number one, because suddenly it wasn't a conversation, it was an audience. The air felt heavy, no TV, no background music. Just the ticking wall clock and everyone pretending this was normal. Evan finally spoke first. Okay, someone tell me what's going on. Silence stretched. Lily inhaled dramatically like she was about to give a speech. And then she looked straight at him. There's something you deserve to know, she said softly. I opened my mouth, but she kept talking faster. I gave birth to you. The words dropped into the room like glass shattering. Evan blinked. Once. Twice. He didn't look shocked, he looked analytical, like he was fitting a missing puzzle piece into place. I figured, he said quietly. Lily's smile faltered. You what? He shrugged slightly. I've noticed things, Grandpa hinted. And honestly, we look alike. She laughed nervously. Well, yes, because I'm your real mom. There it was again, real, and she said it while glancing at me, not accidentally, deliberately. Lily leaned forward. I was very young when I had you, she continued. And Marianne helped raise you. Helped. The room tilted slightly. Evan's eyes moved to me. I stayed calm. He asked carefully, so Marianne adopted me? Before I could answer, Lily nodded eagerly. Yes, temporarily, until I could become the mother you deserved. I felt heat rise behind my ribs, temporarily. Again. Dad cleared his throat approvingly. Mom squeezed Lily's hand. And suddenly I understood. This meeting wasn't about honesty, it was a performance, a rewrite happening live. Wait, Evan said slowly. I just want clarity. Of course, Lily replied warmly. You raised me, he asked me. Yes, I said simply. And Aunt Lily is my biological mother? Yes, he nodded, then asked the question none of them expected. So why does everyone sound like this is a handover? Silence. Lily laughed lightly. Oh, honey, no one is taking anything away. She turned toward me. We're just transitioning into a healthier dynamic. I stared at her. What does that mean exactly? She smiled politely, the kind people use in corporate meetings. It means he's an adult now, he deserves his mother. Evan frowned. I already have a mother. The room tightened. Lily's smile thinned. You have too, she emphasized it. But her eyes stayed on me, measuring reaction, waiting for emotion. Waiting for me to look threatened. I didn't give it to her, and that seemed to frustrate her more. Inside my head, memories flashed rapidly. Late-night fevers. School projects glued together at midnight, teaching him to drive. Holding him after his first heartbreak. All reduced to helped raise you. It wasn't just correction, it was minimization. And Lily wasn't emotional, she was strategic. Every sentence positioned her as returning hero. Every phrase repositioned me as temporary caretaker. That's when I realized something unsettling. She wasn't reconnecting. She was reclaiming status. Lily crossed her legs calmly. So, she continued, now that everything is open, I think it's time we discuss next steps. My stomach dropped. Next steps, she nodded. Yes, college decisions, living arrangements, holidays, things a mother normally handles. Evan blinked. I already decided where I'm going. I know, she said sweetly, and I'd love to help you transition. He looked confused. I'm living at home first year. She smiled wider. Well, maybe we revisit that. I finally spoke. He's staying here. Lily tilted her head. Marianne, you don't need to hold on so tightly. That sentence landed like a slap. Mom added gently, she's just trying to step in naturally. Step in. Like I'd been occupying borrowed space. Let's slow down, I said calmly. Lily sighed. This is exactly what I was afraid of. What? I asked. You making this difficult, Lily said. Evan looked between us. Difficult how? I asked. She softened her voice instantly. I just want to build my relationship without guilt or resistance. I almost laughed, because suddenly I was positioned as obstacle, not parent. Obstacle. Dad spoke up. We all agreed this transition would be healthiest. I turned sharply. We! You never asked me. I objected. He avoided my eyes. The betrayal settled deeper. They had planned outcomes before truth was even shared. Then Lily did something subtle but devastating. She pulled out a folder, printed papers. "I've been researching," she said brightly. "Family therapists recommend reintegration periods when biological parents reunite." Reunite. She slid papers across the table, not to me, to Evan. "I want us to rebuild what we lost." Lost? Like I'd taken something from her. Evan scanned the papers slowly. I watched his face. Not emotional, not excited, just thinking. Meanwhile, Lily kept talking. "I missed your first steps, your birthdays, your childhood. I want a chance to experience motherhood fully." She dabbed her eyes. Perfectly timed emotion. Mom looked teary. Dad nodded sympathetically. And for a moment, I realized how easily narratives shift when people want redemption stories. Then Lily said the sentence that exposed everything. "And eventually," she added casually, "it makes sense legally too." I went still. "Legally?" she smiled. "Yes, updating documents, correcting records, maybe transferring guardianship now that circumstances have changed." The room went silent. There it was, not emotional closure, legal repositioning, control, authority, recognition, inheritance alignment, public identity, everything she never carried responsibility for now suddenly desirable. "You want custody transferred?" I asked evenly. She lifted her hands defensively. "Not custody. He's an adult soon. Then why legal changes? So everything reflects reality," she said calmly. "What reality?" I asked. "That I'm his mother." She responded like she is talking about a choice of having a tea or coffee for breakfast. Evan spoke quietly. "You already are biologically." She smiled at him gratefully. "Exactly," she said and gave me a winning look. Then she added, "And Marianne can finally have her life back." I felt something inside me lock into place. Life back at 41. When I sacrificed my most beautiful time of life for her sake to raise her son as my own. Because she believed she was offering me freedom. Like motherhood had been a burden I'd endured. Not a life I chose daily. That was the moment clarity arrived. Lily didn't want connection. She wanted recognition. Status restoration. The narrative where she overcame teenage hardship and returned to claim what was always hers. And my role? A temporary bridge she planned to quietly dismantle. I glanced at Evan. He wasn't emotional. He was watching, observing, learning, exactly like I had at graduation. And suddenly I realized. He was far less confused than they assumed. He set the papers down. "I have a question," he said. Everyone leaned in. "If Marianne said no, what happens?" Lily blinked. "Well, I hope she wouldn't. That's not what I asked." Dad shifted uncomfortably. Mom avoided eye contact. Lily forced a smile. "We'd work through it as a family." Evan nodded slowly. Then asked, "Have any of you asked what I want?" Silence. Heavy, unavoidable. Because for months everyone had planned around him. Not with him. After they left, the house felt different. Quieter. Evan sat across from me at the kitchen table. Neither of us spoke for a minute. Finally, he said, "They think I'm something being transferred." I swallowed. "How do you feel?" He looked directly at me. "Like people are competing over a story I already lived." I nodded slowly. And that was when I decided, no public confrontation, no emotional argument, just truth. Calm, undeniable. Because Lily was planning a symbolic moment. I could feel it. Something public, something theatrical. She needed witnesses. Which meant she believed the audience would validate her. 2 days before graduation, Lily stopped by unexpectedly. Alone. She walked into my kitchen like she already owned it. "I hope you're not angry," she said casually. "I'm not angry," she smiled. "Good, because graduation will be emotional." My stomach tightened. "What are you planning?" She tilted her head. "Just something meaningful." I studied her. "You've already decided how this ends, haven't you?" She shrugged. "I think everyone's ready." "Everyone except me," she softened her voice. "You did an amazing job filling in, Marianne." Filling in. She reached for my arm. "You don't have to compete anymore." I pulled my arm back gently. "I never competed." She smiled sympathetically. "That's why this transition will be easier for you than you think." And in that moment, I knew. She believed victory was inevitable. Graduation day arrived. Families gathering. Cameras ready. Celebration energy everywhere. Lily walked onto that football field carrying a cake she thought would rewrite 19 years in a single public moment. What she didn't know was that Evan had already made his decision, and he had chosen exactly when to reveal it, right in front of everyone. The applause from the graduation ceremony hadn't even faded yet when Lily stepped onto the grass with the cake. Everything happened slowly, too slowly. The marching band was packing up. Parents were hugging their kids. Teachers were calling names for photos. And right in the middle of that normal happiness, my sister created a stage. She positioned herself where everyone exiting the bleachers would see her. Perfect lighting, perfect angle, perfect audience. I realized then she wasn't celebrating Evan. She was unveiling herself. "Evan!" Lily called loudly. Heads turned immediately. Graduations are emotional. People look whenever someone shouts with love. She lifted the cake higher. Pink frosting glowing in the afternoon sun. "Congratulations from your real mom." A few nearby families gasped. Phones came up instantly. Someone whispered, "Oh my God, is that a reveal?" My parents moved beside her like backup singers waiting for their cue. Mom already crying, Dad smiling proudly. I stayed seated, hands folded, heart strangely calm. Because I understood something they didn't. The moment no longer belonged to Lily. It belonged to Evan. He walked toward her slowly. Gown swaying, diploma in hand. The crowd formed a loose circle without realizing it. I heard fragments of whispers. "Wait, isn't Marianne his mom? What's happening?" "This feels awkward," Lily beamed, arms opening wide. "My baby," she said loudly. "Mommy is here." The word mommy sounded almost theatrical, like she'd practiced it. She hugged him before he reacted. And then, loudly enough for strangers, she said, "I can finally stop hiding who I am." People clapped uncertainly. Someone actually said, "That's beautiful." I felt heat crawl into my throat, not rage, exposure. 19 years collapsing into a public spectacle I never agreed to join. Lily turned toward the crowd. "I was young," she announced, "and my sister helped raise him." Helped, again. She gestured toward me. "There she is, Aunt Marianne." Aunt, the word echoed. A woman beside me murmured, "Oh, I thought she was the mom." Lily laughed lightly. "Common misunderstanding." My stomach dropped. Common misunderstanding. Like I'd accidentally worn someone else's title for 2 decades. Lily continued, voice sweet but sharp underneath. "I sacrificed a lot letting someone else raise my child." I blinked. Sacrificed? She kept going. But a real mother never stops loving her son. Mom dabbed her eyes dramatically. Dad nodded at strangers like this was a heroic reunion. Then Lily added louder, "Today I finally get my place back." People started looking at me, waiting, judging silently. Why wasn't I reacting? Why wasn't I celebrating? I heard a teenager whisper behind me. "Dang, she got replaced." The word replaced landed like physical impact. For a moment I felt small, invisible, like my entire adulthood had been erased with frosting and applause, and Lily saw it. She stepped closer, lowering her voice just enough for me, but still audible to nearby people. "You don't have to pretend anymore, Marianne," she said. "You can relax now, you're free." Free. Like motherhood had been unpaid labor finally ending. I felt my hands tremble slightly, not from anger, from vulnerability. Because humiliation isn't loud. It's quiet. It's realizing strangers are rewriting your life in real time. For a second, just one, I almost cried. I thought about every night I stayed awake when Evan was sick. Every bill paid alone. Every birthday planned without help. And now I stood surrounded by people who believed I'd been a substitute teacher dismissed at the end of term. I felt exposed, unprotected, and painfully human. Maybe this is how it ends, I thought. Maybe love doesn't matter when biology walks back into the room. That was my lowest moment. The exact moment Lily expected victory. Evan still hadn't spoken. He looked at the cake, then at Lily. Then slowly he turned toward me, and instead of smiling, his expression hardened. Calm, controlled, familiar. The same expression he had when he studied problems carefully before solving them. He stepped away from Lily's embrace. The crowd quieted instinctively. "Can I say something?" he asked. Lily laughed nervously. "Of course, sweetheart." She handed him the cake knife like this was a celebration speech. He didn't take it. He faced the crowd, then spoke clearly. "I think everyone deserves context." The whispers stopped, complete silence. He pointed gently toward me. "That woman didn't help raise me." Pause. "She raised me." A murmur spread. Lily's smile froze. He continued. "She woke up every morning for 19 years as my parent." He turned toward Lily. "And you didn't." Gasps. Someone whispered, "Oh," Lily laughed awkwardly. "Honey, we talked about this," he interrupted calmly. "No, you talked about this. Nobody asked me." The air shifted instantly. Power moved. Lily's voice sharpened. "I'm your mother," he nodded. "Biologically, yes." She reached for his arm. "I gave you life. And Marianne gave me a life." The crowd reacted audibly. Phones lifted higher. Mom stepped forward anxiously. "Evan, this isn't the place." He turned to her gently. "You picked the place, Grandma, not me." Silence. He looked back at Lily. "You didn't come today to celebrate me." Her smile cracked. "That's not fair. You came to announce ownership." A few people gasped openly now. He gestured toward the cake. "You wrote real mom like the woman who raised me was fake." Lily's face flushed. "I was reclaiming my truth." He shook his head slowly. "No, you were rewriting mine." Lily's composure broke. Her voice rose, sharp and desperate. "I was a child. I deserved another chance. She stole my experience." The word stole echoed. Evan's eyes narrowed. "No one stole anything," he said firmly. "You walked away. I was pressured." "And she wasn't?" he asked. Lily's voice turned bitter. "She always wanted to play hero." The crowd reacted, uncomfortable now. Evan stepped closer. "You didn't miss my childhood because of circumstances." He paused. "You missed it because you chose freedom." Her mouth opened, closed. He continued, voice steady but cutting. "You don't get to disappear for 19 years, and show up with a cake acting like motherhood is a title you can pick back up when it's convenient." Someone behind us whispered, "Damn!" Lily's eyes filled with angry tears. "I'm still your mother," he answered quietly. "No, you're the person who gave birth to me." The distinction landed like thunder. And then he added the line that ended everything. "My mom is the woman you just tried to humiliate." Every eye turned toward me. Not pity anymore. Recognition, understanding, recontextualization. Exactly the moment Lily had wanted, just reversed. People began murmuring differently now. "Oh, wow, that poor woman's, she raised him. That sister really tried something." The narrative flipped publicly. Teachers approached me gently. One said quietly, "You should be very proud." Lily stood frozen, holding a cake no one wanted anymore. Her performance had collapsed, and suddenly she looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. Evan walked over to me, without hesitation. Without theatrics, he hugged me tightly. "Congratulations, Mom," he said, not loud, but loud enough. And that word, Mom, settled everything. Lily whispered harshly behind us, "This isn't over." Evan turned calmly. "It was over 19 years ago." He looked at the cake once more, then added softly, "You just noticed today." No shouting followed, no dramatic exit, just silence. My parents looked shaken, confused, as if reality refused to match the story they rehearsed. Lily walked away first, still holding the cake, pink frosting untouched. A symbol nobody accepted. 6 months passed. Evan started college but came home every weekend at first. Not out of obligation, choice. The house felt peaceful again, quieter, honest. My parents apologized eventually, awkwardly, imperfectly. I accepted without pretending everything healed instantly. Lily stopped calling, then sent one message months later. I didn't realize how wrong I was. I never replied. Not out of anger, just closure. Some conversations don't need continuation. I returned to things I'd forgotten about myself. Morning walks, reading for pleasure, cooking without rushing between responsibilities. For the first time since 22, I wasn't surviving motherhood. I was enjoying its results, watching a grown man I loved step confidently into his own life, and understanding something deeply calming. Love proven over time doesn't need to compete. It simply stands. People often ask if I felt victorious that day. I did. Yes, I did indeed. Victory suggests a battle I wanted, but I won the battle I didn't want. What I felt was relief. Truth doesn't shout, it waits. And when it finally arrives, it doesn't destroy people, it reveals them. I didn't win a son. I never had to. He already knew where home was. Now I want to ask you something honestly. Who do you think was truly wrong here? Should biology outweigh the person who actually raised a child? And if you were in my place, would you forgive Lily someday? Tell me what you would have done. I read every comment, and your perspectives always add another layer to stories like this. And if this story stayed with you, there are more truths waiting to be told. Don't leave without subscribing. It matters a lot to us.